Today I am going through my sketchbook. I have been working on this sketchbook for about 10 months and it is the first one of a few that I've been working on that I have completed. So today we're going to go through, have a little look, and I'll do a little explanation on each one. So this was my starting page. I started this one on the 21st of June 2025, so last year. I think this was just a random portrait that I found on Pinterest and basically drew her out. I did do this in watercolor first and then basically went back over everything with pastel pencils to help with the blending and adding in little features. So I know I put a lot of depth in with the pastel pencils around the lips, the eyes, and any of the shading, because I was very scared that with my watercolor it was going to end up too dark. So I felt a lot more confident going in with the pencils because, you know, you always have more control with your pencils. And then I just have a page of cat silhouettes. I think for this one, if memory serves me right, I went through Pinterest and just saw cats and just did basic silhouettes of what I could see, trying to get, you know, the different weird shapes that cats get. I still do not feel confident in drawing cats now. I haven't quite found the style that I like for doing them. On this page, I do like this one here. I think that one turned out quite cute. I don't like the face on this one. I like this one, but yeah. Okay. I love this cat. This is a cat that is very similar to a cat my dad has, which was just a stray that he fed and took in. I did this one in my Prismacolor pencils, and I think he turned out really cool. I've got a little funny fat cat on this side that I didn't do anything with, but yeah, I do like this. And on this one, I've got Usagi, Sailor Moon. This was, I think, when I first got my first set of alcohol markers. I was going to say acrylic markers, but they were alcohol markers. And this paper was not designed for alcohol markers, so it bleeds out. And you can see, like, I've lost lines around the place where it's just kind of bled out. And it doesn't look good at all, but yeah, whatever. As part of the sketchbook, not everything is going to be good. You just have fun. This one is the character that Japan uses for their Kewpie Mayo. I don't actually know what this character is called, but I saw the picture. I thought, oh, that's cute. That's something. I'm just gonna draw it. Didn't do anything with it, but it's in there for fun. This was a little illustration I came up with. I don't have a huge amount to say about it. It was just something that I drew, painted. There's nothing really special behind it, not really any story. It just came to mind. Yeah, okay. We all generally is going to know that this is Lilo and Stitch. I think I drew this not long after seeing the new movie at the cinema, which was a interesting experience. It was the first time in a while I had been to the cinemas, and we were sat next to a dad who'd taken his two daughters to go see Lilo and Stitch. And instead of sitting and enjoying the movie with his daughters, he proceeded to look at his phone the entire time while sat directly next to me in a somewhat empty cinema. So he, you know, they could have sat further away. Had to actually say, hey, do you mind like not looking at your phone? We're trying to watch the movie. And he got pretty cranky. And my partner actually then cocked his head toward the side to be like, are you right, mate? And then he stopped looking at his phone for the rest of the movie. So I was glad about that. But I love I love Stitch. I've got a lot of Stitch stuff. This was the first picture I have ever actually done of him though. And I think it turned out quite cute. I used gouache for this. It can sometimes get a little bit muddy, but I like the general look that it gave. I thought it was quite cute. Now, this one is the start of a theme that I kind of do throughout this sketchbook. This one was just a standard graphite drawing that I went in with watercolor afterwards to give it a background. In future pictures, you'll see that I do these watercolor splashes and then draw something over the top. I think from here I changed to using charcoal or colored pencil afterwards. I think that this might be the only graphite one I did, but I think it created this cool little theme that does run through. Now, this is one of the happiest I've ever been with a drawing that I've done. I really like crows. I think they're really quirky birds, and I've drawn quite a few of them. I think I've got a couple in this sketchbook that we'll go through, but this particular one was just started as like a midnight sketch. Didn't think it was going to go anywhere, and I just kept drawing, and I used black and white charcoal for this. I think I used for the black charcoal was a softer charcoal, and just kind of switched between the two as I went, and it just, I love this. I don't really know much more to say about it, but it's kind of become my thumbnail for my Instagram and my TikTok, and I guess now it's my YouTube profile picture. But I love this one. I would love to do more like this, but after doing such a good job on this one, you have that fear that the next one's not going to be as good. So I've been a little bit scared to do something similar, but absolutely love this one. This was something that I did for Inktober. I think the prompt was, I'm going to say the prompt was sardines, but it could have been net. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it was just something a little bit fun. Didn't put, a huge amount of effort into it, but it was fun. This is another charcoal drawing. So this is Holly Madison, who was from Girls Next Door. She was one of Hugh Hefner's girlfriends. Anyway, I've read a couple of her books. I've watched the show and all that kind of stuff. And I listen to her and Bridget's podcast now. Anyway, she posted a picture up on her Instagram, and I just thought, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm just going to draw that. I actually did a grid method, which I don't know if you can kind of see, but I did draw a grid to try and get the proportions right. I don't generally do a grid method, so I was just trying something new. But yeah, I'm relatively happy how that turned out. Something super simple. I've got some tomatoes on a vine. This was watercolor. Not too much to say about it, it's just playing around. Okay, back to my watercolor washes. This was the first one where I actually did all of the watercolor first. So from here, I go through and I put watercolor down, leave the paper to dry for a couple of days, come back and then go, okay, what am I going to draw on this? And this one was a frog. I like him. I like the shadow. I think he turned out pretty cool. I actually draw a lot of frogs, and I'm not too sure why. I do like frogs, but they just seem to be, if I don't know what I'm going to draw, I'll look at a frog or a crow. And frogs usually win with what I'll draw. Speaking about crow, here's another crow. This watercolor that I used was the Sumi watercolors by Kuretake, and they did a special little palette that's just got 6 colors with this really muted color scheme, and I really liked it, and I thought the crow on top of it looks really cool. So again, it was black charcoal with white highlights. The shape of his head's a little bit funny, but in general, I like it. Okay. So this, as you can see, I've actually stuck in. It was from a different sketchbook that wasn't going anywhere, so I decided to snip it out and put it into this sketchbook because I knew that I was liking this sketchbook a lot more. It's Anya Taylor-Joy, I believe her name is. We watched, I'm not going to actually remember what the movie was, but she was some type of assassin on a cliff and there was creatures down below. It was a really good movie. Anyway, so I drew this afterwards just with one of her pictures as a reference. And I do actually have a few other portraits that I've done of her in other sketchbooks along the way. I think this is the only one I have of her in this sketchbook. But I think she has a really interesting look, so I thought she is a great person to draw just because she does have such an interesting look to her. Another watercolor wash, 2 little parrots. Don't have a huge amount to say about this one. Like, I'm happy how it turned out, but I don't think it's anything particularly special. But it's cute. And this is another one that I think I've stuck in from another sketchbook. I don't actually know what I had underneath this, if I had anything at all. But this was just a Pinterest girl. And it was just standard graphite that I did this with. You know, so like these portraits that I've done in this were before I did my 100 heads challenge. And because I was under no time crunch or anything, I just took my time and, enjoyed it along the way. So I know they're still not perfect, but in general, I like it. Like, her eye is a little bit off and her jaw is probably a little bit off, but in general, I thought it was okay. Again, another stuck-in portrait. Another just portrait that I found on Pinterest. I don't actually know if she was an actress or anything, but I liked this. I thought this was fun. I particularly am happy how the hair turned out and getting the waves in there. So, yeah. Okay. I actually got a fair bit of hate for this picture. It's obviously Wednesday. It was loosely based on the Jenna Ortega Wednesday. But at the time that I did this, we were actually watching the original black and white Addams Family series. So it was only loosely based on Jenna Ortega, but online I did get a lot of hate, obviously, that I didn't look like her or her proportions were weird, and I was like, that's fine. Your sketchbook's not always going to be perfect, and I'll happily put up some of my wins and some of my losses and whatever. Taking out of if you don't see it as Jenna Ortega, I was pretty happy with this. I loved the shadows. I loved the hair, how it turned out. I know this eye is slightly the wrong shape, but in general, I was pretty happy with this. So the amount of hate that I got for this was upsetting, but I understand that is part of being online. So I can take the criticism. It's fine. Now this one I was not happy with. So this is Morticia from the original Addams Family. Her name is Carolyn Jones. But it did not turn out how I wanted it. It was one of those ones where I was drawing it while I was watching TV, and I know her proportions are well off of what she's meant to be. But I wasn't going to leave it unfinished, so I just kept going with it. There are some things that I do like about it. Like, I do feel like I got her likeness. Like, I feel like you can tell that it's her. It's just off. But yeah, I don't see it as a complete loss. It was good that I stuck with it to the end. And I might try drawing her again in the future, but I haven't tried again since. Yeah. Watercolor wash is a goldfish. Black and white charcoal. Don't have a lot to say. I did like this one. I thought it had a really nice feel to it. But yeah, not a lot to say. I don't actually know what I was doing for this one. It's just some kind of a wing, and I don't know if the wing's meant to be that way or that. I think just in general, as it is, obviously it's not attached to anything. I just was playing with charcoal and yeah, whatever. We got a watercolor flower. I don't do a whole lot of just watercolor flowers. I think this was before I'd really gone in to do some flower studies. I have done some flower studies since. But I think it's cute. I'm not unhappy with it. Okay, so after my hate of my last Wednesday, I went back in and I did another Wednesday. This one is more based on Jenna Ortega. I think I did this one after watching the last season that came out. Everything was just charcoal apart from the eyes. I did that with watercolor afterwards, and I was happy with this. People seem to like it a lot more than my last one. Between the two, like I actually think my first one's got this cool quirkiness to it and looks, somewhat darker, the way that you kind of meant to get out of Wednesday. But let me know what you think. What one do you like better? Obviously, people are probably going to say this one because it is more like her, but, whatever. I did a dahlia. Again, flowers in watercolor. It's whatever. I'm not really going to go into it because it was just playing around. This one, I was really happy with this one. So this one, even though it's got the watercolor and, the watercolor colors that I have been doing, which are usually the pinks and the blues and the purples, but I had done the charcoal sketch first and then came back in and put the watercolor in to create the shadows, around her eyes and her nose and all that. And I really liked how this turned out. Yeah, I haven't actually looked at this one for a long time. I did really like this. Probably one of my favorite portraits in here. This one is, I hate looking at this one. This is, I'm not even going to remember her name from, Ariana Grande, of course, there it is. I think the picture that I used as a reference was from her Wicked debut. I got my colour scheme a little bit wrong. Her chin's a little bit wrong. Her eyes are a little bit wrong. It's fine. I stuck with it. I finished it. You can kind of tell that it's her, but I don't love it. I can see that there's so many things wrong with it, and that's okay. So I've flicked back to, oh, that's what I should have said about the last one. This was Prismacolor pencils as well. But yeah, so I've swapped back to gouache for this. And it's just a little hair. Yeah, I thought it was cute. He was simple, but it was trying to get the shadows in without creating too much of definite lines, and I do really like how this one turned out. A frog, another frog. As I said, I like my frogs. I particularly like the shadow around it. I think this was completely watercolor, and then I came back through and I think I used my Prismacolor pencils on it, but it's possible that I used my Derwent pastels on it. I don't actually remember which one I finished it with, but it might have been the Prismacolors. But yeah, I like him. He was cute. Another crow. Yeah, I liked him. Probably not one of my best crows, but it was still cool. I did do the drawing of this one first and then came back through and added the red watercolor afterwards. But yeah, I like that. This one, it was the first time I've drawn a squid. And I don't actually remember what watercolors I used for this. I want to say it was my Kuretake Sumis again, but it might have been a different one that I just dulled down with a black. But I have a particular set of pastel coloured pencils, and I used that to create my squid, and then went through with my white Jelly Roll pen and outlined him to create the highlights. And I did really enjoy doing this one, and this one I had kind of gone in without too much of a plan, so I was pretty happy that he turned out pretty good. Some roses. This is the first time I think since I was in high school that I've tried to draw roses, and yeah, I like them. Nothing much to say about it. This one, I did actually put a video up, so if you are interested, you can go back and have a look at a video for this one. But this was the first picture I did using acrylic markers, and I'm not very good with acrylic paint. Once things dry and you can't really work with them, it all becomes a bit of a mess. But I'd done a watercolor thing and came back and went, oh, what am I going to draw on it? And I was just, scrolling through references, and I thought, oh, there's a seahorse, and I thought it fit pretty well into what I'd already put down on the page. So yeah, went through, then used the acrylic markers and just focused on showing the shadows and the highlights, and I really liked how it turned out. It was quite fun to do in the end, even if I thought it was going to completely fail. I did like this one. I think from here I just kind of wanted to finish the sketchbook, and things became a little less creative and more just practice-based, with drawing from sight. So I did get a couple of the Art of Studio Ghibli books, so you'll see some Studio Ghibli from here. This is one of the spirits from Spirited Away. Yeah, I like how he turned out. He's what he looks like. That's fine. I have Alice in Wonderland. Obviously, she's not Studio Ghibli, but I wanted to do some watercolor stuff, and I just wanted real basic things that I could focus on and go from there. But I liked how she turned out. And then I have a Beatrix Potter character, which is Mr. Jeremy Fisher, and I really loved how this turned out. I grew up with watching Beatrix Potter, the tales of Beatrix Potter. But yeah, I did this. I think I did it as just a drawing, and I thought, oh, I'll go back in and see if I can get her kind of technique of watercolor, which is not so much coloring everything with the watercolor, but putting in splotches, which is not something that I usually do. And I thought I'm just going to do that to get her style. And I liked it. I really liked how this turned out. It seemed to do quite well on my TikTok as well, which is, if that does well, then you're like, cool. This was bad, and I'm sorry. So this is Princess Kaguya, which is one of my favorite Studio Ghibli films. Whenever I watch it, I sob basically from 20 minutes in. I sob the whole rest of the movie. And I know that I'm going to cry through the whole movie, but it is one of my favorite movies. And unfortunately, I completely got her face wrong, and everything was wrong about this. But I still think it looks somewhat cute, but it's not what it was meant to look like, but that's okay. This I was actually playing around with. I have some watercolor textures. So they're markers that you put them down. I don't know if you're meant to put them on dry and then wet them, or whether you're meant to put them on wet pages and let them spread. But I put them down dry and then added my water in afterwards. And I just wanted to play and see how it went. I think for the leaves, I think that worked out kind of cool. Obviously, everything bled out because this is not the best paper in the world to be doing watercolor on anyway. And particularly, your alcohol markers blow out. So I guess these markers had a similar type of thing. But all in all, it was a fun practice. Here I have just a little anime girl that I drew. I am trying to practice more figures without any type of reference, and doing my own clothes and stuff for them. With a lot of the stuff, it's so hard to get that creativity to get you going. So of course references are great, but I want to do more without having any references at all. And yeah, I did do this without a reference, and I'm I can't complain about how it turned out. I think it's fine. Little weird foot, but whatever. This was just some watercolor splotches that I then just drew what I saw in them. It was just a little practice thing. Yeah, not a huge amount to say about it. That's fine. Here I was just working with alcohol markers and pencil over the top, trying to create, 3D-ness in them. So this is a piece of amber, and it was kind of gets little cracks and stuff all throughout it. So I wanted it to look like it was kind of got cracks and different indents in them, but it's still got that smoothness and shininess of a polished piece of amber. And this was actually a picture of a porcelain rabbit, which had the super shine. So I used that just as my reference to try and get that shine and 3D-ness on it. Little frog with a fly on its head. This is somebody else's design, which I found on Pinterest somewhere. And I mean, it's not completely copied per se, but as it was just a frog with a fly on its head. But yeah, I went through with alcohol markers and just played around with them again. And yeah, so nothing really to say about that. This one I really liked. This was using really cheap, crappy pencils, and I just sat on the couch watching a movie while I did this. But yeah, it was a little pigeon statuette, and so he kind of had shine marks on him from where the light was catching him, and I just tried to turn it into its own picture. But yeah, I really liked how it turned out. I was happy with that one. A beetle, because I again was using the cheap markers for this, it's not, the best, but I did try to get as much of that shine that you'd get on the beetle's shell, and I think I almost got it maybe on that side there, but there was too many reflections on this side that it just didn't quite come through, but that's fine. This was completely my own design. Weird little lizard. Obviously you've had the lizard going around a lot, so I drew him, went back in with my my acrylic markers and coloured him in, and I was not happy how I coloured him. I kind of got lost in through here, but I still think he's cute. I think he's a cute design. There's something going on with the way that I drew the leg there, but whatever. It's fine. Yin Yang otters. I just, was using coloured pencil, outlined it. I think they're cute. This guy looks probably a little bit too grumpy. That's okay. And then we have a Nauska and Tito. This was just sight drawing. So, I had the reference next to it. Draw what I see to as closely accurate as possible. When it comes to anime faces, I've just struggled to get my own face onto them. So this was essentially just copied from the reference to get a feel of the face. In the next one, I did Arietti, and for her, I put my own face onto her with the rest of the body being from the reference. And I don't love what I did. I've been away from this practicing different anime eyes and, mouths and all of that type of stuff. But I'm still struggling to find my own style. Like, I really want to work more on illustration stuff and creating little worlds and that, but my style is just not there. Still developing it. So, that's why there's quite a bit of anime stuff there, is just trying to get a style, basically. And then we go to my very last page, which is something which is totally different from everything else that I've done. It's a little cream cake. I do see quite often people, do these really loose sketches and they do the coloured outlines, and I'm never happy when I do coloured outlines because I always feel like it just ruins what I've drawn. But for this one, I actually don't feel like I ruined this picture. I never draw food either, so drawing food was a complete first. And I'd done outline with, my regular lead pencil beforehand, and after I'd kind of loosely coloured everything in, I thought, I'm just going to pick a colour and outline the whole rest of it. And I love the way that coloured pencil, when you do line, you can get these thicker bits and these thinner bits and, create depth that way. And this is probably, the first time that I've been happy with, how it's turned out. And I don't know if it's because it was on food as opposed to like when I've done colored pencil outlines before has been on faces and figures, and maybe it just is too much for them. But if I'm doing them on inanimate objects, maybe that's the difference. But I will try and do a couple more things like this because I did enjoy how it turned out at the end. And that's it. That's my sketchbook done. I do have a couple more sketchbooks that I'm working on, but I think it's going to be a very long time before they are finished. So I might do like a midway look in at one at some point. I did show the sketchbook that I was drawing my 100 heads challenge in an older video. So when I do a sketchbook tour of that, I am just going to have to kind of sweep over all the 100 head stuff. But for now, this one is done. It is glad it's done. Yeah, I've hoped you enjoyed this video, and hopefully I'll see you next time. All right, bye.